What's up, Thumpers? Welcome to a review of Incredibles 2.
14
That feels
years
so good to say. So good to say. This is going to be a split spoiler, non-spoiler review. The first few minutes, we're going to just give you our reactions to the movie, whether or not we recommend it, which... I mean, of course we're going to recommend it. And then we're going to get into a little bit of spoilers.
Spoiler review on the spoiler review,
I know,
dog.
right? I know. I like to just spoil that part because, I mean, if this movie wasn't good, I don't think we'd be as enthusiastic about coming here and talking about this movie.
Yeah,
but you're right. It's been 14 years since the first Incredibles, 2004. A movie that... When I first went to go see it in the theaters, I was like, well, I don't know. This looks pretty cool, so hopefully it is. Walking out of it, I thought this was one of my favorite superhero movies ever. Probably.
Yeah.
And
you had a tough time, Adam, at the beginning of
did.
this screening because it was supposed to start at 10,
Yes.
and it was like 10:05.
I was like, it's 14 years and 5 minutes too late. Let's go.
You still have your watch. The rest of us have our watches and our phones, and our phones are put away, so we're like, I don't know what time.
Yeah, you're like, I'm in a void right now.
You're like, it's 10:06, it's 10:07, it's 10, and you were like, you were having a tough time.
And then the rep from Disney came and said, all embargoes are not, no reviews until Monday. And I'm like, just get to the movie. We know.
Then, real quick, we got to talk about this. We saw a little Pixar short
We did.
in the beginning, which was great.
It was, yeah, I forget what the first word was. Was it just called
It
bow?
was just
Yeah.
called bow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was funny. I turned to him and I was like, I hope whatever it translates to is little dumpling.
Yeah. I mean, I think bow might mean baby. I don't know. I'll just check
Is it
it out right
dumpling?
now.
I'm pretty sure it means dumpling.
I've got
Let me
a
double check
computer
in your
my
hand.
hands.
in my pocket.
So,
but
yeah,
anyway,
but-
it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was it was so heartfelt and so funny, and you think it's going one way, and then you start to immediately understand kind of what the short is representing, the relationship between the characters, and it was just really warm and just really fun and heartfelt, and I loved it so much.
It's a good tone setter too because it's
Absolutely.
about family.
Exactly.
It's about family and like the difficulties of being in a family and like loving for somebody and them not reciprocating, but you can't do anything because they're in your family. And so it's cool, man. It was
really good.
Really, in the pantheon of shorts.
Yeah.
It's definitely not in the greatest, but it's definitely like
it gets you.
It felt really
you.
personal. I feel like because in the beginning it said bow, a film by, and then it had the animator's name. And I feel like this felt like a really personal short and a personal film about this guy who probably doesn't have the best relationship with his mother, or at least it was like this at one point. And I bet you he animated this. I bet you he directed it. I bet you then he showed it to his mom, and I bet you she cried. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I was like, oh man, this is really special. It kind of reminded me of the super team. Was it Sanjay's super team? The one I'm thinking of that was done by like an Indian animator, and I think it came out of Disney or Pixar, that was like about a Indian parent telling their child about like the gods, and then he turned it into like superheroes. Like, it was like it's like that. It felt like a really personal project.
Absolutely.
So I loved it. I give that one like a 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
according to the internet, it is a type of dumpling.
Okay, cool.
Made
I also
steamed or baked with fillings.
I looked up the meaning in Chinese. It's package. So it's like I think it's got multiple meanings, I'm sure.
So it's a little package of food.
I mean, well, as soon as you said dumpling, I was like, yeah, this is like this is the mother's little dumpling, her kid.
Exactly,
you know, like I think it has sort of these like double meanings.
Yeah, I agree.
But let's.
Picture, by the way, check our Twitter. We got a good picture.
Yeah, we got a good pic, which you probably at this point will have seen it because this is coming out a few days later.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But let's talk about our reactions to this movie going in. Obviously, we were all super hyped. Brad Bird, 14 years. Michael Giacchino, the entire cast came back.
Non-spoilers. Let's make it very clear.
Non-spoilers.
Non-spoilers. We will make it very clear when there are spoilers.
The only actor that changed is the actor who did the voice of Dash, because obviously this takes place.
He aged up
right after the first movie, so he aged up. So they got a new kid actor to the part of Dash.
It also sounded like Rick Dicker or Dick Dicker may have also.
Oh, Rick Dicker was probably a different voice.
Probably, yeah.
Let me see.
But my initial reaction to this movie is I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I thought it had great adventure, great action. The way they utilized the characters' powers are in new and interesting ways that I really enjoyed. Jack, I think, is for a lot of people is going to be the scene stealer in this. He's incredible. I really love the mission that Elastigirl goes on in this movie. I thought they used Helen so much more, and she's already a big part of the first movie, but they just take her and they elevate her and they give her so much more to do. So many cool gadgets. She has a motorcycle and she does some really cool stunts with it. There's just really great fun moments. I love Frozone, even though I will say that I was hoping to get a little bit more of him. We do.
More than the first
More
one.
than the first one, for sure.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more, but when they do use him, they use him so incredibly well.
Yeah,
and Sam
I was
Jackson
very
is just so
impressed
great.
by his powers this time.
So
I was like, oh,
sick.
shit. Like, this is why Iceman's an Omega level mutant, because Frozone can do stuff like this, you know? Like, he's got control and manipulates the water in the air. But I agree with you, Adam. This movie was great. There was times when I feel like I felt like the movie was paced and was breathing very well.
Yeah.
Like, you got to spend time with these characters and understand their motivations and stuff like that. And I feel like besides Frozone not just kind of popping in and out, I feel like I got time with every single one of these characters.
Totally.
You know? And I felt like it breathed just overall, and like even the villain was like, I feel like I got plenty of time to understand motivations. So yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. No, I agree. I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Just real quick, the actor who played Rick Dicker in the first movie was Bud Lucky, who I believe he passed away this year.
Was
there was
that
a
in the
tribute for him at
credits?
the end of the credits. Tribute for him.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Jonathan
yeah.
Banks is now playing
Jonathan
him in Incredibles
Banks,
2
that's who it was.
from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Is this actor right here, Jonathan
He was
Banks.
also in Beverly Hills Cop. Played one of the
Beverly Hills
villains.
Cop. Yeah, yes, he did.
Yeah.
I just rewatched the first Incredibles last night and Jack Attack, which if you're watching this right now and you haven't seen Incredibles 2 yet and you have an opportunity to rewatch those,
100%.
go watch The Incredibles.
It's
and
one movie.
Jack Attack.
And one,
And the little short that should be on the DVD or Blu-ray of The Incredibles before you go see Incredibles 2. They are that first movie and the short. That first movie is one of my favorite Pixar movies, and even now, 14 years later, the reason it's still so great is the story is so great.
Yes.
The animation is beautiful, but the actual quality of like the CG characters and props and everything in the CG world.
The whole environment.
14 years later, we're like, Pixar's come a long way. You can
absolutely.
still tell.
Oh my
You can still
God.
see
Absolutely.
that some things have aged in that first Incredibles movie. So I walked out of this going, you know what? I think Incredibles 2 is better than the first one.
Interesting.
I think it's better
okay.
because I feel like the storytelling is so on point. The characters and the voice acting is perfect. The animation is probably even better than the first movie. And when I say animation, I mean like the way that the characters move, the way that the little, the acting. The acting of the
yeah,
the
let's call it
nuances of
acting in this
the
case, 'cause it is
acting
acting.
is
Yeah.
probably even better because again, in 14 years, Pixar are some of the best animators in the world, and animators just provide acting to these characters.
Right.
So some of the best actors in the world, and so just what they've been able to do in 14 years of making these movies, the acting in this is even better, and I feel like Incredibles 2 will overcome Incredibles 1 for me just by a little bit. They're both like 9.5, 10s out of 10.
Yeah.
But the reason I think Incredibles 2 edges it out a little bit is because the CG itself, the detail of the models, the characters, like all of that is just 2018 status. When you go and watch the original Incredibles, it's 2004 status.
Sure.
So there's some things that are
didn't
like
age well. I remember watching the first Incredibles.
Yeah.
And I remember just being in awe when they're coming up to the waterfall and the waterfall splits. I was like, oh, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah.
It didn't age well.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
trees look kind of janky. Like the water effects aren't that great. But in this one, I mean, maybe 14 years down the line, I'll say the same thing.
Sure.
about Incredibles
Which-
2.
And then, which is naturally
Right,
how
That's nuts,
animation of
though.
that sort of kind
Right.
progresses. Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely tell when you watch the first Toy Story from 1995.
Oh my God.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's way less when you watch Incredibles because even that was 9 years later. But even I'll give you an example. The Incredibles was the first movie that Pixar like figured out how to do like human hair. And look at how far they've come since then. You know what I
The
mean?
hair looked amazing
Now
in
they
this
do
movie.
cloth on skeletons in Coco, and they figured out how to do that without it messing up in the programs or whatever.
Yeah.
So overall thoughts for me. My God, this movie was so fun.
Yeah.
It was so fun to watch this with you guys.
it was so good.
Fun.
So good.
And these two movies and Incredibles 2, like, they're some of the best superhero movies ever made,
Yeah.
period.
100%.
Yeah.
Period.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. These need to be the standouts, the bars to what every other superhero movie needs to achieve.
Yeah, well, and I think honestly, like, and there's even moments we'll talk about a little more in the spoilers, but there are even moments where it goes into sort of like dark moments.
Yeah,
and it was a
yeah.
little scary. Like I'm watching this, I'm going, "Man, this is pretty. Like
Right,
I'm
right.
feeling it. I can't imagine being a kid and going like, this is a little terrifying.
Well, remember that first
Yeah.
movie, dude? My favorite sequence in the first movie is when Helen's flying the plane. And
Yeah.
she's going, abort, abort, there are children aboard, abort.
Yep.
And the music and the cuts and like
shit
it just
got real.
It
That
gets
shit got
so
real.
stressful.
Yeah.
And then when the missiles hit and she goes and covers a kid and
Yeah.
it explodes and
Yeah.
we're like, oh my God, they
Yeah.
did it. And they're all falling.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that
It's
is the
intense.
most intense
Yeah. It was-
thing
yeah.
ever.
Yeah. It was super
And
intense.
There are sequences that approach that level of like intensity. And
for sure.
I think there's more in this movie than there are in the other ones, because there's a few points that I can point out where I'm like, oh, like she could really get hurt right now, or like somebody could really die. But you know,
and characters die in Incredibles movies.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. The first one,
bad guys. Even when Dash is fighting the henchmen in the first movie,
and they crash,
like, jumps out of the thing. They'll like hit a cliff wall and just incinerate. Like they die. Like they die. And
I think that was so impressive to me, and I think a lot of it goes is the responsibility of the technology also, because I think in the first movie. Yes, I think they pushed a lot of boundaries and they created and developed a really interesting style for the first Incredibles movie. And I think even though some of it may not hold up now, it's still extremely impressive for how they were able to do it. And in this movie, I think they took... There was probably a lot of things in the first Incredibles that they couldn't accomplish because of the technological barriers. So in the second one, Bradbury went, okay, I can turn it up to 10s now because we now have the ability. Even you and I, when the credits were rolling, like, man, even like the fabric of the costumes,
dude,
it has like these like textures and shimmer.
It
looks so incredible.
Here's another great example. Like in the first movie, you can really notice it at the beginning of the movie, which is like a flashback where Bob is in his car and he's driving through the city and things are happening. He goes, yeah, I've got time. And when he's driving through the city, the background is so like barren. There's like one or two people on the streets, and the buildings are so like simple. Do you know what I mean? Everything's real simplified. And then you watch this movie,
very Art Deco.
Anytime there's something happening in the background, there's something happening. But the cities are populated, and there are various different types of people and cars and buildings,
destruction and
structures.
Like when the Underminer appears in the first one, you just see him come out of the ground. But in this one, it starts off.
It's like almost an Avengers movie.
Yeah, and it's just like destruction and things going, and like you get to see different perspectives. So they really, really turned this one up.
Yeah, plus, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think on the emotional level, they really hit some high notes in this movie.
Yeah, and I think it sort of elevates the stakes as well when you get to see now more people and that it's really happening in like a real populated city.
Right, exactly.
So the score?
Let's get into spoilers.
Oh, wait, he wants to talk about the score.
Michael Giacchino is my favorite. He's Pizza Chef. The score was perfect.
Yeah,
you're gonna want to download it.
We got in the car and that's the first thing we put on.
Yeah, that's what we listened to on the whole way over here. It's more of what you expect, and then there's some real good stuff in there that you need to pay attention to in
and
the
sit
movie,
through the credits.
And then sit through the credits.
It's great.
Watch it pay off because it's good.
So let's get into spoilers.
Okay, spoilers.
Spoiler territory.
First of all,
Hector, go.
This is the thing I hate the most about Incredibles 2.
Nothing.
That it is so good.
Spoiler over.
That if they do a Fantastic Four movie, live action, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever, like you have to work so hard to differentiate it. You can never attach anything else to the '60s style because Incredibles did it.
They got that shit on lockdown.
And here's the other thing that really pisses me off. Incredibles 2, it had two little Johnny Quest references. At one point, Dash is just watching Johnny Quest, the cartoon show, which was like licensed by Warner Brothers because they own Hanna-Barbera, and so they like let Pixar show that. He's straight up watching it. Earlier in the film, there is a backdrop cityscape, and there's a Quest logo on a building as if the Quest Industries is like a real company at nighttime when Helen's doing her thing. I am so pissed that there's little references to Johnny Quest, and I'm like, now if
where's my movie?
Now if they do a Johnny Quest movie, Michael Giacchino can't score that because it's like, like that's what I'm mad. And Michael Giacchino can never score Fantastic Four because people will say this is just your incredible score. Like he did Spider-Man, he did Doctor Strange, and that's it. And I'm pissed about it.
Damn it!
It's okay because you got two of the greatest superhero movies ever.
I know. Two of the best scores. It's so good.
Sure.
So let somebody else take the reins.
Highest score.
There you go.
Highest score goes to Michael
Giacchino for the incredible score.
So good.
That's for you, Mike.
There you go.
Highest score.
Yeah.
So where do we start off with this? So do we start off with like?
Well, so here's the thing about this movie is like, for me, I feel like the spoilers are sort of minimal. I think the really only thing for me that I can really spoil is just great moments with the characters and the situations that they're in.
And Jack.
And Jack.
Yeah.
But the one thing, so the part that I was mentioning earlier where I was like, oh, this is pretty scary, is when Helen is going after the screen slaver?
Screen slaver.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Slaver.
Yes. And she encounters the screen slaver, and they're duking down, and there's a battle, but like everything leading up to that, it's in a very dark apartment. It feels very kind of scary.
Yeah, actually,
and they did a really good job kind of taking the tone of being lighthearted and fun and going a little dark and a little ominous and really building up sort of the suspense of it.
Yeah, the lighting in this movie throughout is gorgeous.
And I just watched Hereditary on Thursday, and obviously a very different movie, obviously.
Right.
But I was really impressed that like I'm watching this scene sort of unfold and the intensity. I'm like, wow, this has like a very like authentic sort of horror thriller feel to it. It's very short and it's not so scary that kids will be turned off by it, but it's just enough for you to be like, okay, if something pops out, I might jump a little bit, but it's done so incredibly well.
I really enjoyed that scene because of what they did with the lighting that they were when he put her in that cage and all those lights were going off.
It's very frantic.
It's very frantic. It's very unsettling. The energy's just like, what's going on? She's getting her ass kicked. I don't want this to happen. Like she's getting disabled by that electronic thing.
Yeah, because he's like stunning her.
Yeah. And so and then his design was actually pretty cool too.
Yeah, it was a cool design.
Like when you see him in the shadows and stuff, I'm like, oh, that's simple, but actually pretty ominous.
Yeah.
So, and that design kind of goes in with all the backgrounds and stuff like that. Like everything's very simple shapes, but they work. But that's a whole nother thing that we can spend hours about talking. The whole backgrounds and design and everything is just.
I think that's the most important, or one of the best things about the Incredibles movies is that the art design, the execution in the backgrounds, and just the design of the characters themselves.
The clothes they wear.
The
Everything.
houses they live in.
Yeah, it's got this like very Art Deco-y yet modern, slightly futuristic feel to it, and I love that so much. It creates a very unique Pixar movie because I feel like a lot of the other ones, not that they all look similar, but they do a really good job of sort of distinguishing their style, and it's nice to see a superhero movie in the Pixar universe that could just look like anything. It could look like Our World and just kind of be bland, but no, they gave it a really nice style.
It's cool that it's set in the 60s.
Yeah, and I like that so much. I like that a lot.
One of my favorite things is that it seems ultra high techy, but then they got into their big modern house, and the screen that pops out of the floor was still like a tube TV. Like it still had like the rounded tube.
It's great.
And then things are still in black and white.
Right.
You know, like I think the Johnny Quest was the only thing in color that they were really watching.
All the other TV stuff was
it was like kind of black and white, and I think they did a really good job of like grounding it, but also making it futuristic. And then also being its own thing.
Totally.
Totally. I would love to live in a house that they live in.
I will say, like, there are moments where I forget that the movie's in the 60s. And then you have those ones where the TV pops up, you're like, time period.
Exactly. So it brings you back.
Alternate Earth history, 60s, whatever. Obviously, there's supers and stuff like that, but man, every character was so well serviced. You guys were talking earlier about the balance. The first movie, The Incredibles, is really Bob's movie. It's like it's kind of Mr. Incredible's movie and the journey he goes through. And at the end of it, for him to have to say to his wife, I have to do this alone. And she's like, really? And he goes, I can't lose you again. And she's like, you won't have to. We're going to work together. And then he has to like learn that. This movie, like Bob, Helen, Dash, Vi, and Jack, and a little bit of Edna, they each kind of go through a thing. And God, Edna is still maybe the funniest character in the movie.
Just in the monitor.
Edna never disappoints.
Never.
Bob was hilarious. The animation was perfect on Bob. And like so perfectly, the performance from Craig T. Nelson and the animators did such a great job. Helen was so badass as Elastigirl. When they gave her the bike, and the first time the bike came apart so she could stretch it around and stuff, I was like,
she basically slingshooting herself.
Here's the thing.
It was so dope.
The action in this movie is some of the best action you will see in a movie, period.
It's so good.
I think they might have even outdone themselves from the first one.
Oh,
the
100%.
First movie had
100%.
great action, but it's still like, dude, Frozone was such a great addition to the movie. Like, it's so good to see him, and he was such a cool character. And I will say this as a spoiler. I was kind of hoping to see his wife, but I kind of like that we also did. We'll still have not seen his wife.
If you look at the stuff leading up to this movie, they're like, no, we made a decision to just not show her.
Because you don't see her. You only hear her in the first one, which is a great.
And it works so much better.
The thing I love so much is that her name is actually Honey. Honey, where's my super suit? And then this movie's just like, we don't want to impose on you and Honey. I'm like, I love this. This is so good.
That's really great. Dash was hilarious.
Dash reminds me so much of my cousin. It's insane. Like he very much embodies that little kid so beautifully.
Each of the family members, mom, dad, brother, sister, baby, they're so familiar to us because we know these people because they're our family. And we know them in our real life family. We know these characterizations. Like the fact that Violet is going through adolescence, like, and she's having a tough time.
What did Dash say?
Is she having adolescence?
Is she having adolescence?
As he's like eating cereal, like, and she's such a great character in this too, and she goes through a great little story arc. And then we have to talk about Jack.
Yeah.
Jack steals this movie.
Before we talk about Jack,
he steals this movie.
He does. But what I will say about Violet, what I love is that, again, very familiar. It's familiar to people that we know in the real world. But I do love that when she is going through relationship stuff, they really do sort of like put on the forefront. When she's depressed, she's invisible. She goes to the freezer, grabs the pint of ice cream with a big old spatula, and then when they go to the diner.
Oh yeah.
And Bill or Bob, sorry, Bob is trying to sort of like set up this whole thing between Violet and the girl. And she sees the boy that she likes, and she's drinking water, and she doesn't spit the water out. It comes out through her nose. But like
2 giant jets that are still coming out of her nose while they're hitting the table.
It's Super Soaker level. But oh my God, I think the theater almost like had a seizure laughing so hard.
What a great audience we saw this screening with too, because they laughed at all of the
except for that baby that was crying.
Yeah, there was one baby crying.
Here's how good this movie is. It's like it still didn't ruin it. Any other movie, it would have ruined the film.
Yes.
And I was frustrated. I'm not a parent, and I know that this sucks for me to say as somebody who's not a parent, but like, it frustrates me.
Babies at home.
It frustrates me when a parent like doesn't recognize that like the baby, the young toddler or baby continues to make noise, continues to cry. There's at one point you got to take him out of the theater. At one point you got to be like, you know what? You're not ready to come into a theater yet. And the parent like stayed in the theater the whole time. That's what was frustrating. It's just being a little inconsiderate. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like
I'm not sorry. Like, take your crying ass baby home.
It's true. It's like you might miss out on a movie, but you have a kid, a little baby, and the baby doesn't care that it's missing out on the movie, but it's like you're almost ruining the experience for everybody else in the theater. We were up in the front, and they were up in the front, and still this movie was so good that like when the credits rolled, I was like, that's fine. During the quiet moments, this kid was screaming and just making noise because the whole theater was making noise at in reaction to the movie. And then at the end, when the supers are actually able to pull off the thing they're trying to pull off and they save the day, everybody applauded. And I'm like, I can't remember last time I saw a superhero movie when the supers are like, we gotta do the thing, we did it. That everyone's like, yay,
they did it.
They saved lives.
It's not like, of course you knew we were gonna do it. They're like, I'm so excited that they did it.
It feels like every time a character accomplished some sort of feat, doesn't matter what character it was, the audience was very invested in it, and they would always sort of like cheer and applaud as a sort of way to being like, we are enjoying this. And because it kind of was like a family and friend screening, it seemed like there was press, but there was also a lot of kids. The fact that only one of those kids was sort of distracted that or was not really into the movie says a lot about the movie and how engaging it is.
I want to go back to one more moment with Violet. Is the moment in the car after where they're going to the movies and they see this like bank robbery going on, and she's about to go on a date with Tony, who she spent the entire movie angry about, sad about, like pissed off at her dad about to go on this date, and then they see this crime happening at the same time, and she's like, stop the car,
let us out.
We think she's about to run out so they don't ruin her date. She pushes Tony out, gives him money, and be like, I'll be back by the time the credits end. She totally does like a redeeming arc. Because and it wasn't expected. I was like, oh yeah, I would jump out of the car and go on the date.
I'm like, bye-bye, mom and dad.
Bye, mom, go. I know you guys got this. It's just a bank robbery.
I feel like Dash kind of had that moment at the end of the first movie where he like the kids are kind of embarrassed by mom and dad a little bit throughout the whole film, and at the end when after they've seen their mom and dad in action on the island, and because like they see them kick ass and they're like, whoa, and at the end
cool.
Dash says, I love my family. This is the best vacation ever. I love my family. Because the whole point of these movies is like they really do have each other's backs. They really do. Because even Tony's like, I guess you guys are close, huh? Not every family's like that. And the point of the Parr family is like they actually are close. And part of them being super is part of what brings them together. But it's really cool that she's like, I'll be back before like the previews end or whatever, like to catch the rest of the movie. But like she's gonna go with her family.
Like
they're all about to put
even
masks
through all
on.
that angry bullshit, she was like, you know what? I got my family's back. They need me, so I'm gonna.
Well, I mean, she even has a great moment with Bob. You know, where they're just in the house and he's falling asleep and she's like, you're not great, you're super. Talking about how great of a dad he is.
He apologized for the right thing. He goes, I'm sorry, I didn't know about this thing and it ruined your date and it did this and did that.
That's the other thing that should be acknowledged about this movie is Bob really starts out as a guy. I don't want to say he doubts his wife, but he very much is like, but I'm Mr. Incredible. Like, I'm the greatest superhero. And it has a hard time sort of being like, you can go out and do it. But by the end of it, he completes that arc of
honey,
like,
we've got this. Go.
Like,
finish the mission.
Exactly.
I think another big thing that it would suck if we didn't hit on was the sort of swapping of what they were doing. So Bob is a stay-at-home dad.
Yes.
And then Elastigirl is out kicking ass and being incredible. And I'm really glad, like we were talking about in the car, that they didn't shit on Bob staying at home and being miserable.
Or shit on the fact that there are people out there, whether they're moms or dads, that they are stay-at-home parents, and that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
It showed us how hard of a job it was.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean, and I feel like, again, the audience and everybody can relate to this because we are either a parent or have had parents, is that when at the beginning of the film, when Bob's like, what's the worst that can happen? It's just me staying home with the kids. Yeah. Parents were laughing. Yeah. Parents were like,
wait till you find out.
Oh, you're hilarious. Like, this
and I
is
think even Helen
great.
says that to him, like, you're funny.
Yeah,
you're adorable. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
That was, I think they did a really good job because he steps up to the plate. You can tell he's stressed out.
Yeah.
He's got bags under his eyes.
Yeah.
He's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. He's like a walking zombie, basically. But he steps up to the plate because he wants to be a good dad.
Right.
Like he says in the movie. And Elastigirl, she's also feeling guilt because she's like, I shouldn't be out. Like I have kids
be
at
with
home.
my kids,
That's where I should be. Yeah. But then they also didn't shit on that either.
Right.
They were like, Elastigirl, no, go do you, boo boo. Like, go be a badass. Bob's got this.
Right.
Like the whole family's a tight unit. I really like how they hit that.
Yeah,
really
they did
hard.
a good job of really starting the characters off, and it's again because it takes place right after the first. You would think that that's like, it wouldn't be as easy to do that, but they do a really good job of starting these characters off in one place and really putting them on separate journeys and different journeys in the first movie, and having a really nice message and a really nice payoff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Honestly, this movie was 14 years worth waiting for.
Yeah.
No joke. Like I said it at the end of the movie, I would wait another 14, but come on, Brad.
No.
Don't do that to me.
No.
Make it like
5 or
make
6.
it
5 or
like,
6.
Make it in like 4.
Yeah.
Like, give it to us in like 2022.
Yeah.
But
Maybe 4.
Jack
Jack steals this movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Jack
Absolutely.
versus the raccoon
was the best.
funniest
set that up, dude.
goddamn
set
thing.
That up.
Well, first of all, I liked how they leaned into him just having all the powers because in the first movie, when he freaked out on Syndrome at the end and freaked out on the babysitter in the short, we learned that like he has like he displays a couple of different powers, like 3 or 4. And at the end of that movie, the family still doesn't know that he can do that. It's just the audience. And the creators of the film have said Jack represents the unlimited potential that an infant has because they haven't like settled on their personality yet even.
Right,
so that's what the powers
kind
of represent.
They're
still moldable. I hope that he gets to keep all 24 of his power or however many he had.
I'm sure he has like
there were so many
powers
because it just is so funny and so great for storytelling. And I think my favorite sequence might be the first night that Bob has to deal with that. Which was hysterical.
The raccoon
in
fight,
all of his, and then the raccoon fight.
That's the first night, right?
Baiting him with cookies.
I think it was. Yeah,
that was
I think
the
it
first
was.
night because
cookie num num cookie, and then he comes out of another dimension.
Num num cookie,
and he's like a zombie. He's so tired, and he knows how to get him back.
Can't keep giving him cookies. He'll turn into a monster. You take the cookies away.
And then he turns into a demon. Yeah,
that's right.
How funny was it when he turned into Edna's face and she looks at him? She goes, "Yes." Like she was like, "Oh, this is
like the
awesome."
ultimate compliment.
And again, it's like it's another little moment with the character where Edna's like, "I don't babysit," and then he turns into Edna and she's like, "I love you, baby," and I'm like, "This is so cool."
Go home, Bob.
Go home, Bob. Get out of here.
Like
go get some sleep, Bob.
That raccoon fight, I think. It was a really smart way to get the audience used to, like, we don't know what this kid's going to do. Because every moment was like, wait, he can do that? He can punch a raccoon in the face and have it fly 20 feet in the air? But then he can also turn into a gloopy, globby thing.
Yeah, so if anyone tries to, like, punch or wrestle with him, he just
get and Bob said when he picked him up, he's like, you have powers. There's not a scratch on you. All right. It's like, okay, we needed to know that because a raccoon was scratching at him.
Right. You're like, oh, the baby's being scratched up. No.
Like, if a raccoon were to attack a real baby, that baby has no chance.
You're done.
Yeah, you're done. But it was incredible. Like this guy, and then Jack kind of saves the day.
He does. Yeah, Jack does. The one thing I will say is like,
pew pew.
That's so hilarious. I do like the fact that this movie almost tries to maybe set it up and or throw you off to make you think that there's potentially going to be 2 villains in this movie. It ends up only being one of the characters ends up being a villain. The other character ends up just genuinely being a good person who really wants to help the supers out, rebuild their reputation, which I think is really cool. The villain is a little bit predictable. But I was totally okay with that because they still allowed us to spend time with that character to really build up sort of what that character represents, who that character is, and not just rush into it and just let it be a villain. So I really appreciated that. And it didn't take anything away from the movie.
No,
I still really enjoyed the villain.
Plot stuff was great. It was like it was engaging, and And this is just the strength of how good the storytelling is at Pixar, is that the plot stuff was cool, totally serviceable for like a regular superhero movie. The use of powers is the most creative and awesome in like any superhero movie, period. That when we left, Abby was like, why can't every superhero movie be like that with like the use of the creativity of the powers?
Yeah, they actually use their powers.
The thing that's just as engaging as the plotty stuff is, again, oh man, is Violet gonna be able to make it up with Tony? Like, is Dash gonna be able to figure out his math? Like, that's just like the family problems, because that's just good storytelling. You love these characters.
Is Jack Jack gonna get stuck in another dimension and never come back?
I know.
That's right.
Man.
Yeah.
You know what else I'm pissed about? Disney spent some money on this. Obviously, Disney and Pixar are the best. But they cheaped out with the merchandising because they used the company Jax, and they made shitty toys for Incredibles 2. I saw them inside of a Ralph's, and I was like, these suck, man. And I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I was like, and after the movie, I'm like, man, I just want good toys.
Yeah.
Did you not check out the gift shop at the?
Good they stuff
probably
in there.
had some better
probably
stuff.
because it's Disney store.
Yeah,
right, exactly. They probably had some better stuff.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna check that out. Okay. Cool.
Then they obviously introduce other supers in this movie as well.
Yeah. They're cool.
Yeah. They are really cool characters. I'm hoping that in the third movie they're further explored. We get to spend a little bit of time with them, but some of those characters do have really, really cool powers. I did like Void. Void was cool. I do wish that character, because I feel like they kind of did. I don't want to say they hyped up those characters a lot, but I feel like Void maybe the most out of all of them, especially because of Sophia Bush. So they got someone who's like a pretty well-known TV movie actor to play the role, but very limited sort of exposure to those characters. It did continue to just focus on the family, which I'm totally fine with. But it'd be nice to see sort of exploration, a little more exploration of like the Parr family, but also these other supers as well. Some of them had really cool abilities.
Again, man, at the end of the first movie, they were outlawed, and they still were not even supposed to put on their masks to fight the Underminer. This movie spends the entire movie to get us to a point where it's like, oh, now the world is blown up. Like, if they do, and we keep saying if, it should be when. When Incredibles 3 comes out, honestly, like 4 years from now, guys, like, get these voice actors on it immediately. Before something happens and we lose anybody key, you know, we should
Dash, or you need to recast Dash again, because I love Dash so much.
Exactly. Keep all the actors that you can. But like the next movie could be something like Avengers Infinity War of the Pixar Incredibles world. Do you know what I mean?
It could be like Thanos, you can just throw
Thanos in there. Just the reality gem.
You thought you were safe.
You could have something like a Civil War. With like the comic book Civil War.
That's where I thought they were going to go at the very beginning of the movie.
I thought so too.
Because Helen was very much about the law. We got to upstand the law. And Bob was like, no, sometimes we have to break the law to do what's right.
Registration.
That's Civil War. 100%.
At the dinner table.
So much potential for an Incredibles 3 that I have to believe that Pixar's already working on it and thought of it.
As long as Brad Bird is alive and breathing, we need to have Incredibles.
Don't hand this over to anybody else ever.
I just think he really understands, and it goes back to the Iron Giant. He just really understands the character. The story is important, but the characters and the relationships are equally, if not more important. And I think, even though we had to wait 14 years, that is delivered in spades, absolute spades. So, if it takes him 5-6 years to think of a new story that he thinks is worth telling, fine.
But
I just don't want 14 years.
Don't wait 14, because in the 14 years that have happened, they had to reanimate certain scenes that happened in the first movie. Because again, we have grown since the more simplified models of the characters. Then we can see it now. Everything's 4K, baby. We can't. You can't pull that.
We were between the age of 16 and 18 when that last one came out.
Now they have all of these gorgeous models and sets and costumes, and let's use them again now to save some money. Let's
do it.
Money.
If there's only one gripe about this movie that I have, it's the fact that it ended. Yes, the fact that I couldn't watch it again after it was done. Was the fact that I feel like they kind of glanced over the fact that supers are legal again. Like, he just said it. He's like, and supers are legal again, and everybody claps. But I would have liked to seen more audience, like more of the real world reaction to that.
I will say the last 3 to 5 minutes of that movie, it very much wraps up quick, and it's like, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's over.
Yeah, but I feel like, we didn't really get it in the first movie either.
Sure.
Right.
But they were kind of hitting the fact that, supers are legal again, when they hit us with a really good opening in Incredibles 1 with that old school like newsreel of like, oh, well,
this is what
you
the
can
world,
see
this
people
is the
going
world
to court
is
cases and like people angry. I'm sure not everybody was happy that supers are legal again,
That could be the seeds for a villain of Incredibles 3.
Yeah, maybe. It could be. But I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of a world reaction to that rather than like, hey, everybody's happy and everybody's got super.
And I wonder if some of that has to do with the fact that they tried really hard to keep it under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because these are fairly long for Pixar movies.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this one is 4 minutes longer than the original.
Yeah. The original is like what, an hour 56 minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
so they're like right at that 2 hour mark,
Yeah.
and I don't think you can go any longer with these movies.
Yeah, I agree. I like we were talking about again. There are some points in which it feels like it's going to start to drag a little bit, and then Brad Bird just picks it right back up.
Yeah,
100%.
Give you a little taste of this,
little taste of the glory.
I love this movie.
Yeah, it's so good. My final thoughts on this: I think this movie was, for lack of a better term, incredible. 14 years again, long wait, absolutely worth it. All the characters are great, the acting is great. Huge shout out to every animator, every designer, every single person who helped make this movie possible. It was absolutely beautiful.
The work is up there. You can see
it. This will 100,000% be one of the animated movies up for an Oscar for Best Picture.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. What else is
win.
this year? What else is this
it's
year?
just going to be like little thing.
Yeah.
Unless Disney doesn't have anything else planned.
I don't.
Right?
Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Yeah, there's a couple of other ones,
right.
but like
Yeah.
this absolutely is one of the best movies of the year for sure.
Oh, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse though.
Oh shit.
That's going to be the sleeper.
Yeah,
That's going to be the
that
Oscar
could be a
race
good
right
one.
there.
That could be a good one.
I hope.
But 100%, I recommend it. Go watch it. Take your whole family.
My
It's
final
amazing.
thoughts, like I said at the beginning, if you can rewatch Incredibles and Jack Attack before going to see it.
Yeah, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah. It enhances the experience. You've seen it, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this spoiler review.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
insulting how good it is. It's effortlessly.
We almost don't deserve it. It's so good.
It's not
effortlessly
insulting because when you
perfect.
do something good, nobody notices.
That's
Like,
right.
it goes unnoticed
Yep.
because it makes it look effortless.
Yep, true.
But there was a lot of work put behind this. I'm really glad Brad Bird. If it took this long to make this movie, great. Because it really paid off at the end.
100%.
I highly recommend this movie to everybody that goes and watch it. Take your family. Don't take your crying ass kids though. Don't ruin the movie for anybody else.
And if your kids will sit through the credits, sit through them. Like really understand and look and see how many people it takes to make a movie like this. It's amazing.
You get cool little songs at the end.
Great songs. Great songs.
No post-credit scene, obviously, but cool little songs.
A little teasy weasy at the end.
Did you notice the Underminers thing? Popped up?
Yeah. Right. Little fun little thing.
That's great. But it's just not. Yeah, it's nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy. But in the meantime, Hector, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Find me on the internet at Hector is Funny. Agustin?
You can find me at _Santo Taco.
And you can just find me at Adam Havoc. Make sure you guys subscribe, check out, or let us know in the comments what you thought about Incredibles 2 and what could potentially happen in the future.